I'm what's called an empath, meaning I'm really in tune with the emotions other people are feeling. I can typically feel another person's emotions without them saying anything about it. I'm very good at connecting with animals and babies because their communication is entirely nonverbal. I even mirror people's tone of voice without even realizing it. It's just how I've been my whole life, and it's never been worse than a nuance. When I was a kid, I had empathy for everyone. My mother raised me as a Wiccan until the age of 6 or so. And a few years after she left that faith, she converted to Christianity. Those early Wiccan teachings still stuck with me, though, and I never wanted to hurt anyone or anything unless I had to. Through middle school, I guess I felt like I had to sometimes. But I'm not like that anymore. In some ways, I'm worse than I was in elementary. You see, I really, really like monsters, to the point where it's considered a fetish. Teratophilia, to be exact. When I see a scary illustration online, my typical first instinct is to call it my boyfriend as a joke, but I'm never sure how much I'm actually joking. For the last few years, I've had the belief that should some shuddering mass of limbs and flesh appear before me, I would offer it a cup of tea and a cookie before anything else. And why wouldn't I? Scary things feel emotions too, somewhere deep down. Anger is reflexive, an emotion felt in response to pain or sadness. If they can feel anger, they can feel other feelings too. That's what I thought until yesterday. I decided last week that I would finally have the monster in my home that I so desperately wanted. I could drape my hand over the edge of my bed at night, and they would reach out with gaunt, rough-skinned fingers to walk with mine. I would work during the day, and then come home in the evening to my loving haunt, ready to cradle me close. No urge to hurt me because I had no fear of them. I'm different. I love them and they can feel it. A feeling they've never felt before. Of course, this wasn't free. I read all I could about summoning and the darker side of magic, and earlier tonight, I finally acted on it. First, I had to kidnap someone. A sacrifice. A summoning made with the blood. Something that once held life. Is the strongest summoning you can get. And like I said, I broke my code for this. I'm not a small woman by any means. And under the layer of chub, I have some pretty mean muscle mass. So finding a thin, pretty girl and stuffing her into the trunk of my car wasn't even that hard. She fought a little, but eventually she gave up. So I drive this girl back to my house. At this point, I should mention, I had to tie her up and cart her down to the basement. It's about 1:30 as I'm doing this, maybe a little later. I'm not sure of the time frame exactly. I left her in the middle of the floor, in the chalk circle I'd drawn in preparation, and then the ritual began. My new girlfriend was supposed to be beautiful. I know now that I was wrong. Like really, really fucked up kind of wrong, but also mistake wrong. But at that time, all I could think about was running my hands through my lover's hair, kissing her gently, being held tightly while the stench of sulfur burns into my hair and clothing. But now I think it's too late. She's pounding on the basement door now. She figured out a way to get out of my salt circles, past all the talismans, all the way up the stairs. But the sigils on the doorframe seem to be slowing her down long enough for me to warn everyone else. It's only, like, 6:30 at the time of writing this. Maybe she'll go away if I can hold out until daybreak. Regardless of whether I live through this or not, listen, if you stay here, reading about the occult instead of socializing, making time for horror stories and not friends, Sooner or later, you start empathizing with the wrong side of the narrative. If you do that, don't make the mistake of showing them that empathy. The demons you see in the media, that's just how people portray them. The people in the costumes, they have feelings of anger. But what monsters feel isn't anger. What's coming from the other side of that basement door? It's bloodlust. I can only hope that when she tears me to shreds, she eats me too. I really, desperately want to be a part of her, if only for tonight.